Sorry for throwing you off.
No,
Mayor.
your eyes. Sorry.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Rachel Wood, Assistant City Manager. Really quickly, today we're going to go through a funding request that was presented to us by Asheville Peak Academy. By way of quick reminder, the City of Asheville received $26.3 million in American Rescue Plan Act funding. For the purposes of today's presentation, I'm going to refer to it as ARPA. To date, the city has spent $25.8 million of our ARPA funding and has authorized funding for a combination of both external and city projects. We have $501,384 left in our city ARPA funding. At your February 13th City Council meeting, there was a discussion around potentially using the remaining unobligated ARPA funds for Asheville Peak Academy. Staff has done some due diligence in checking with the U.S. Treasury Department as well as the University of North Carolina School of Government and have confirmed that Peak Academy's funding request is eligible for ARPA funds. So tonight, the City Council is being asked to consider directing the city manager to coordinate with Asheville Peak Academy to work on a grant agreement obligating the remaining ARPA dollars. If the grant agreement is approved, by mid-April, Peak Academy could foreseeably begin drawing down those funds. So before you is a suggested motion directing the city manager to coordinate with Peak Academy to develop that grant agreement.
Okay, so we'll need a motion, and then we've got a couple folks signed up.
Okay, I move to direct the city manager to coordinate with Asheville Peak Academy to collect all federally required information to finalize a formal grant agreement with Asheville Peak Academy in the amount of $501,384, using the remaining unobligated balance of ARPA funds.
Say Sandra, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and we do have a couple people signed up to speak. I just wanted to say before we call on the speakers, I have come to appreciate this request for funding. I'm going to support it. I do have deep concerns about education in North Carolina and the state of education in North Carolina. And I know that nationally we're losing students in traditional public education. That's true in North Carolina too. We're down somewhere in the 70s. I think 76% of kids in North Carolina go to public schools that aren't charter or homeschool or private. And because North Carolina funds on a per pupil basis, that means that our school systems are losing funding and they're having a difficult time meeting. A lot of counties this year are having budget shortfalls, and we'll have further budget shortfalls as the federal relief money that was allocated to school systems falls away this year, the ESSER funds as they're called. And in general, charter schools in North Carolina have been used as a way to resegregate our school system, and that's true statewide. This being one of the rare exceptions, Peak Academy. So Peak Academy has achieved incredible outcomes, and to me, this is a form of reparations because during desegregation, black schools were closed. Black students had to move to the white schools, and the black schools, in our case, were given to the city. Many of our recreation centers were former black schools. So, to me, this is a reparations of sorts in the area of education and education outcomes. I am deeply concerned about Peak being able to sustain themselves over time, and I know two things about that. I know that they're in conversation about working out a more permanent fix to make sure that they're sustainable for years to come, and I hope that all comes together so that we don't give this funding this year and see them close in a year or two anyway. That would be a not good outcome for anybody. And I do think also, just to go back to the state system, the North Carolina legislature passed legislation a few years ago that allows local governments to fund public education. And as many of you know, the way our state is structured is we have to remit most of our sales tax to the state to balance the state budget, and they are supposed to be paying for public education, and they fund charters. And so to allow local governments to fund education is a bit of a ruse in trying to shift the burden from the state to local governments. They have a surplus and they're trying to eliminate the income tax in North Carolina, and they're trying to do it on our backs so that we get to argue with each other about the lack of funding for public education locally. And that is immoral and despicable, and I hope that it changes. It's probably not going to change anytime soon. So we're left having this conversation locally, and I'm really mad about that. But I'm excited about Peak and the outcomes they're achieving despite the challenges that we face in each and every one of our cities, counties, whatever, trying to make sure that our children are educated and successful. We have 2 people signed up to speak. The first person signed up to speak is Jonathan Wainscott.
Hello, my name is Jonathan Wainscott. Mayor, that was, thank you for everything that you just said. I'm kind of blown away by it. It's the best thing I've ever heard you say.
Eventually it'll happen.
Yeah, we're having a moment here. I might even get weepy about it. Clearly there's support for this. Thank you for that. I hope that there's unanimous support for this. You know, the statistics that we've thrown out here are just beyond problematic. They're beyond crisis. It's catastrophic. The achievement gap or the performance level of black students down to 11 and 13%. That's beyond a crisis, and it breaks my heart. It infuriates me as well that this has happened in this city, that the achievement gap could be the worst in the state of North Carolina. And Asheville City Schools has managed to be one of the best itself. I think it's, you know, a shame on the community that the situation got to this point. And just thank you. I'm disappointed, you know, to see in my community people who are hell-bent on suing Peak for discrimination, as though what Peak is doing is somehow tantamount to the segregation that Esther was referring to. This isn't a blacks-only school. Denying whites to go there and mandating that all the other whites in town go somewhere else. It's absurd that it even is talked about this way. It's a reparation. It's incomplete. I think it's a indication of how we've never taken repairing the origins of the black community in this country, this state, to heart. For those who think that elevating the black community takes something away from the white community, it does. It's going to take away crime, human misery, hunger. So thank you. And I hope it's a unanimous vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Item is Kimberly Collins.
Well, I thought I had ceded my time to Jonathan, but...
That's at the end. You did. You did.
Good. Well, first of all, Esther, eloquently spoken and well said. Thank you for bringing this actually to a motion and just realizing how important it is for all of our children to be properly educated and to get the support and resources that they need, be it through public school or be it through a charter school like Peak. Peak has proven time and time again, their numbers are phenomenal. Do you still have them left out? Their numbers are phenomenal. They're 6th in the state for charter schools in their performance in closing the achievement gap. Somewhere, give or take a rank or so. I think that's amazing for such a young charter school. So, please, I think I see my yeses. I hope that you all will agree and vote on this, because if you don't, I will single-handedly make sure that you will no longer serve on city council ever again, or for any public service in the city of Asheville. Thank you so very much.
Okay, that's it in terms of who signed up to speak under this item. Any other questions or comments, council? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, a unanimous vote there. Go ahead.